It's my first look at the tight end and defense positions for week 16. And we're starting right now. What's up, guys? Welcome to another daily fantasy sports video. If this is your first time here and you want to become a profitable DFS player and get better at betting, start now by subscribing to the channel. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you don't miss anything along the way. And if you're already a Holkamaniac, you know exactly what time it is. Smash that like button and we'll get rolling. Tight end position for week 16. If you're watching this later on YouTube, come hang out with us over on Twitch. Twitch.tv/Joe Holka, going through our first look. Make sure you come hang out with us on Sunday mornings, 10:30 Eastern time, leading up right up until kickoff. Talking about the main slate today and tight end. So this is a position that is pretty heavily driven by touchdowns, but also we want guys that are going to be running routes. So how did we land on guys like Ian Thomas, guys like last week, guys like Higbee? They're guys that are running a ton of routes, but still have a decent target share for higher totals, because that's where we're going to try and find those touchdowns, right? So interesting week, I think, at tight end, but this will be like our true first look. What do you guys, we're just talking about it, what do you guys think about Ian Thomas, 3,100? Seems like this Carolina situation, now that Kyle Allen will not be the starter there, maybe some things changed a little bit, but Ian Thomas at 3,100, again, like, I don't know. Indy's a team that's below average at defending tight ends, we'll say that. In terms of routes run over the last four, like, I know Ian Thomas didn't get there for people last week, but he's still running a ton of routes. I don't hate him. Nate was saying that Olsen cleared protocol. Okay, so yeah, definitely keep an eye on Greg Olsen. What's the upside of them just bringing Olsen back for a full-time role if he was dealing with a concussion? I don't know. Ian Thomas is still popping in some projections, probably because they haven't put Olsen back in. Let's talk about my boy Mike Gesicki. We like Miami again. Cincinnati, slightly below average against the tight end. Nice total there for Miami. Maybe it's a Gesicki game finally, with Parker kind of taking the limelight there. 3,600 for him, still a decent price tag for sure. Let's see. Run the bases asking Ertz or Doyle. I'm not going to do a ton of 1v1, 2v2 stuff in this, man. We like to keep it a little bit more to kind of a process type of stream. But if you're looking for those type of answers, I do have a start sit group over on LinkedIn. You'll find that in the description, man. Be happy to answer your question over there. Is it really a Miami onslaught type of week? Man, I've played a lot of Miami recently, which is kind of scary, but it's been working out. Someone was asking about Noah Fant, 3,700. They don't want to price this guy up, do they? In terms of his yards per route run, like something that we're typically looking at wide receiver for, but to find some upside, Jared Cook, Mark Andrews, Darren Waller, Noah Fant right there. Not running as many routes as I would like. But interesting, for sure, in this spot, at home against Detroit. I don't hate Fant. Are we just going to all play Jacob Hollister against Arizona, though? I think that's the question. He's 4,200. He gets the Arizona price bump. A lot of plays for Seattle. Again, nice total. We know that matters. Is Hollister the cover boy? What did Hollister do last week? I don't hate it. 3 targets last week, not great. 6 and 8 the 2 weeks before that, though. Just seems like every tight end has gotten there. Flowchart. Yeah, everyone's talking about the flowchart. I haven't been following the flowchart much this year, just because these price tags always get elevated, but you're probably doing pretty good if you've been following it, even though it's been kind of a joke. Interesting. Austin Hooper's 4,400. Do we like Austin Hooper? I know we didn't do much last week, but someone that seems like a really bad price tag for Austin Hooper against the Jacksonville Jaguars. 31st at defending the tight end, 26 implied total at home. Austin Hooper might be the cover boy. That's a really bad price tag. AZ just made Ricky Seals-Jones look like Tony Gonzalez. I'm with you. Everyone wants to talk about Ertz. Yeah, I think Hooper is an awesome play, though, for the record. All right, so Zach Ertz. It was an awesome play last week. He's definitely back in play this week. I think that if we're just talking pure ceiling, Ertz has got to be probably the number one guy. He's 6,400 against Dallas, which, I mean, I don't love. Darren Waller, 61 right there as well. It's an interesting spot, I'll say that. I just never really end up in that price range typically. I think at that point I prefer paying down for Austin Hooper. He's like by far the top guy in my model, followed by It looks like Jacob Hollister. Someone asked about Doyle earlier against Carolina, so I guess we could talk about Doyle a little bit. 4,500. That always ends up like kind of a weird price range. So like him and Hollister, maybe he ends up being a decent pivot. Carolina, he's running a lot of routes. Definitely can say that for him. 25th at defending the tight end. Yeah, no, I got no issues with Doyle, actually. I think he's okay. Let's say, what else we got? Hooper would be way more expensive if that late TD isn't overturned. Good call, Gavin. That could easily be it. Love Hooper because Julio chalk week. We've talked about this. That's true. Every time Julio's chalk. When has Julio chalk ever worked out? So maybe this is the play. We just pivot to Hooper. Interesting. Before we go any further, I'm always trying to find unique and creative ways to give back to the community, and at the same time try and get you guys involved in what we're trying to build here. So if I hit 10K followers on Instagram before the Super Bowl, I will be free rolling one lucky member of the Holkamania community 150 lineups for the Super Bowl showdown slate. I do think this is something that we can definitely accomplish as a community. It was one of my goals for the NFL season, and it is something that you can enter this drawing multiple times by really helping out across my platform. So a couple of things that you can do: retweet anything from me when I'm talking about this contest on Twitter at Joe Holka, you will get an entry. Retweet anything from me that links to my YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, or LinkedIn, you will get an entry. If on that original tweet you do reply with your DK username. So retweeting is one thing. I'm going to need your username to tally all of this up. Another great way to kind of get involved and get more entries into this drawing is to comment like on a new YouTube video, Instagram post, or LinkedIn cheat sheet. This is all going to be within 24 hours. So if you see one of my videos go up, again, hit that notification bell so you know when all my videos go up. All you have to do is post your DK username in the comments. So defense this week, we're going to start by, I guess, looking at some of the larger favorites on the slate. So Seattle against Arizona. Targeting Kyler is something that people like to do a lot. He hasn't taken as many sacks as people realize, actually below average. So that's interesting. 3,700 for Seattle. I mean, their pressure rate's horrendous. I think they might be popular. Not really on that. Baltimore against Baker Mayfield, with just all the chaos that's happening in Cleveland right now. Maybe they just completely kind of mail it in a little bit, and we get them. They're 4K. They're expensive, of course. Indy, again, Kyle Allen looks like he won't be out, so we could get an interesting quarterback scenario there where maybe we don't know completely what's going to happen. But, yeah, I mean, Indy's defense, a team that will pressure a little bit as well. In terms of teams that are pressuring a lot, New Orleans, Pittsburgh, Cleveland. Cleveland against Baltimore, definitely not targeting Lamar. I mentioned this spot earlier, like 3,900 for Pittsburgh. They're expensive, but against Sam Darnold, I think that's interesting. The Jets offensive line, 31st in the league. Pittsburgh pressuring a ton. New Orleans, 2,700 against Ryan Tannehill. I don't hate this play at all. I mean, I've played New Orleans probably too much this year, but at what point does Tannehill come back to earth? I don't know, but he is a guy that's going to take sacks regardless, so definitely don't hate that. Who else we got here? Let's look at some good matchups. Breeze has been taking a lot of sacks. I actually didn't know that. It's interesting. Let's see. Delvin Hodges, David Blow. Yeah, okay. Seems a little bit more wide open than last week. Like last week we had Detroit for a super cheap price tag. So let's take a peek at some of the really cheap defenses here. So we mentioned Cleveland, 1,800, not really interested in attacking Lamar. Arizona, 2K against Seattle. Russell takes sacks, but he's also someone that's not going to make a ton of mistakes. So not super in on that one. Jacksonville, they've kind of given up. They pressured a decent amount. Not sure I love it. I don't know. I don't really like a lot of these cheap defenses. I'm being honest, guys. Someone mentioned the Giants earlier. They're obviously relatively expensive, 2,800. I guess middle of the pack against Haskins. That's an interesting one. I don't hate that. I'm going to keep fading Tannehill until it does something for me. Fair enough. You can play the Jets versus Duck. Yeah, maybe. I guess don't play these defenses that don't pressure, man. That's just not a lot of pass attempts on the other side. But yeah, maybe. They're 3K. If they're a little bit cheaper, maybe that would make more sense for me. This is a gross defense slate, guys. I don't love a lot of these plays. Carolina against Jacoby, maybe. Their pressure rate's really dropped off. Jacoby just seems like he's someone that's willing to throw it away. He doesn't take a ton of sacks either, so interesting. Skins. I could see Washington being a thing. 2,800 against Eli. I don't hate that one at all. I think at first glance I would prefer New Orleans. But yeah, I think that's, I mean, definitely think it's at least reasonable. Jacksonville against Atlanta, like we mentioned, like they've kind of given up, but Matt Ryan was someone we were targeting for a bit in terms of like him throwing picks. Not a great offensive line. 2,200. I think they're the cheapest I would go for sure. Yeah, Eli did have a couple really bad throws this past week, so that's interesting with you. Quick cheap D look was, yeah, not, it doesn't look great at cheap D. Arizona has to be a good cheap defense. Yeah, Arizona's always kind of in play for me. I don't know. This team ideally doesn't want to throw a ton though, right? So maybe not. I actually have Russ projected for a decent amount of pass attempts right now, probably because of their elevated play volume. In terms of guys that are going to throw it a ton, Brees, Fitzpatrick, Tannehill. Maybe you play the other side and play Cincy D against Fitzpatrick. That one's not terrible. They're not as cheap as I'd like, though. What about FanDuel? Any like big price discrepancies on FanDuel? Detroit, oh, they're 4,100. Detroit's a lot cheaper on DraftKings. Maybe the Jets. Someone was asking about the Jets earlier. Maybe on FanDuel they're a little bit more in play. I don't know. I think we hit on most of the really cheap ones. Thoughts on targeting teams who have given up? Steve in the chat. No, man, that's a thing. I mean, if Jacksonville is just completely like done with the season right now, maybe Atlanta. I've heard worse ideas for sure. 3,200, so they're not like crazy expensive. Gardner Minshew has been taking care of the ball relatively well, but yeah, no, I could see that being interesting, man. Is Daniel Jones supposed to be back? Yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on that if we wanted to kind of go the route of Washington. If you want to learn more about how to be a profitable DFS player and get better at betting, start now by hitting the subscribe icon in the bottom right-hand corner so you don't miss anything. If you want to take that a step further, come hang out with us on Twitch, twitch.tv/Joe Holka. I go live every Sunday morning at 10:30 Eastern time to get you ready before kickoff. I'll see you then.